Sunday morning, and we're doing a service on my 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee. We're going to be changing the engine oil, oil filter, the air filter, the fuel filter, wiper blades, and checking the transmission fluid level. Right, so the car's up on the ramps, and the first thing we need to do is we need to put in the engine flush plus. Now, I use the Liqui Moly brand stuff. I run this every service. Just helps get rid of any sludge deposits, any gunk that's inside the oil galleries, and just helps the old oil get out. So when we put the fresh oil in, it's fresh, cleaner. So we'll pop the bonnet, we'll get this in, and we'll get the engine warmed up. Alright, that's at about 10 minutes now. Engine's sitting at about 50 degrees oil temp, so we're going to drop the oil out of it, and then we'll start changing the air filter and the engine oil filter as well. Now, trick that my dad taught me with this is hold the plug up, and then when you hear it or feel it jump that last thread, these are really long plugs too, you sort of hold your finger on the end of it, and then you feel it jump on that last thread, and then just pull out the way. I still get oil all over myself, but it's better than the alternative of dropping it in the bucket. Let's get it loose. Normally, all I do is I just lift that up and out the way, take that off of the turbo intake, and I'll just flick this up out the way. Because I sometimes am not shit, I actually put on here when I last changed it, and that was in February this year, so it's looking pretty clean. There's a few bugs and a bit of dust in there. It was using a bit more fuel, so we'll change it and we'll put the date on there, and that'll be today's date. I know some people don't like catch cans. I was recommended to put one on, and I really don't want all of the oily vapour going back into the intake. On the bottom of the catch can, I've got a hose with a little 1/4-inch ball valve, and then all I do is when it's servicing time, I can see, if you can see, all that came out before was a bit of water vapor, and that's really sludgy, shitty, condensed oil vapor that you don't want going into your intake. We'll let that drain, and we'll go and do the fuel filters. Alright, so the fuel filters on this are a twin element water filter separator, 1, 2. They come in with an integrated cap, O-ring, and a 27mm hex. And the first thing you need to do is you need to undo the this Phillips head plastic plug, and that's your drain for your fuel filter housing. So you do that before you take these out. So you're gonna get a bit of diesel on your hands. Now let me get in the better spot. There we go. So Phillips head, undo that. Unfortunately, you are going to get dripped on if you're not careful. So we'll let that drain. We'll come back to it in a minute. Let's go and check how the engine oil is draining. So that oil has now slowed to a bit of a quick drip, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I'll put the sun plug back in. We'll go up top, change the oil filter, change the air filter, put that back together, put some new fuel filters in, and we'll top it up with oil. When it comes to some plugs, they just need to be nipped up. You're not holding anything together, you're just stopping them from falling out. This is a 1/2 inch
ratchet. I've got a 3/8. Normally I do it with a 3/8, but 1/2 inch. I've wound it in till it's touched, so it's called finger tight. And I'm just gonna nip it like that. That was pretty much not even a quarter of a turn of tightening from finger tight. Done. That won't leak.
So the sun plug's back in and tightened up. The drain for the catch can is shut. I've got all my tools and all of the drain pans out from underneath the car. I'm going to change the oil filter and put in the new oil filter, the new air filter, close this up, put some fresh oil in it, fuel filters, and then we'll prime it and start it and check everything. So the oil filter is also an M27 on top. So if you get a 27mm socket, I usually put an extension on there, just make it easy because it gets the ratchet up out of the way, and then you just undo it. It's simple as that. There you go. So the next thing we need to do is we need to just give the oil filter housing a bit of a wipe out. That sits down there underneath that intake hose where we took the oil filter from. So I just get my rag, give it a wipe out inside, have a bit of look, make sure there's nothing on the rag, make sure there's nothing in the housing, and then oil filter goes back in. So I'm pretty happy with that. I've put a little bit of oil around this O-ring here before I put it back in the housing. I'm just going to slot it down there and run it in till it's finger tight, and then I'll use the ratchet to run it in the rest of the way. If you're struggling to start the thread, turn it anti-clockwise till you feel it jump over the last thread, then you can start from there. Again, this is the 1/2 inch, but you can do this with a 3/8. I'm just going to run this down till it seats. And then give it about a little twist. I generally make a mega mess when I'm doing this, so I like to use a funnel. Now the nipple says to go to the handle, but we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to turn it 90 degrees past the handle. We're going to turn that way, and we are going to put it on its side, and you're going to just rest your arms on the bodywork and start tipping. So I'll leave that there and we'll do the air filter. Sits down in the bottom of the air filter housing, just make sure it's pushed in nicely. And then bring this back over here. Push the intake hose onto the turbo intake, and then the back of this slots into the housing and then clips down. It. Fuel filters, 2 of. You don't need to lube or do anything with these, but you will need your M27. These are just got to come out. The shallow hex on the
the filter housing makes it a bit awkward. Once you've backed them off a bit, you're going to get a bit of leakage. Alright. Newbies, push till it seats. Do it up with your fingers till you can't anymore. Rattle around for your shit. And then now all this plastic cap stuff like the oil filter housing, the fuel filters and that, they all say about 20 Newton meters. That's not a lot. So just when you're doing it up, just nip it up. The O-rings are there to seal it. You're really just tightening it up to stop it from coming undone. Don't forget to do up your drain. Just nip that. And then bit of degreaser, let's give it a wipe. Otherwise, you're gonna go around, the car's gonna smell all diesely, and it's, I mean, I don't mind it personally, but your family's not gonna want to smell that shit all the time. So we're gonna check the oil in the pan, but you need to do this with the engine running and the transmission less than 35 degrees. It is less than 35 degrees because I just drove it in here and parked it before. So I'm just gonna go and check the oil on the engine, make sure it's up to a minimum mark, start it up, check the pan, or check the level in the transmission, and we'll go from there.
So, dipstick out, wipe it clean, slowly down, and there is plenty of oil in there at the moment. Now, the reason I did it like that is I pushed it in and then I pushed it in the rest of the way. Is the oil ring on here can sometimes push the oil out of the dipstick tube, which will give you a false reading. So obviously pull the dipstick out first, wipe it clean because that gets oil off of the top of the dipstick. Put your dipstick back in, slide it down slowly, and then just click it in place. Pull it out, check, up to the max mark, back in, funnel out. Okay, back on. Because that's been running, we need to let the oil drain down before we can check the level. So while we're waiting for that, we'll just move these ramps out the way and we'll change the wiper blades. Because I had to stuff around with those wiper blades for so long, the oil should be drained enough to check the level, so let's do that. Needs a bit more. We'll probably put another litre in there and see how it goes. Now, because I'm recording this for you guys, I'm trying really hard not to be sweary, but there was a couple of swears in with those wiper blades because they were giving me the shits. I'll check that. I'm pretty happy with that. A little bit over full, but once it gets running it should level out. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to pop it back up on the ramps and I'm going to have a look underneath and make sure there's no leaks under there, and then I'm going to put the splash guards back on, and we've got one more step to do after that. So, I didn't do it before, but I'm going to have a bit of a look underneath. Obviously my main concern is oil leaks. Modern diesel engines have got engine oil coolers, they've got EGR coolers, they've got coolers for the coolers, and all sorts of other bits and pieces that just add complexity and areas for oil egress, which means oil coming out. And I just want to make sure that I haven't got any of that. And it's all looking good. So we did a repair on this part. This is the lower sump. There was leaking down the back here, so we took it off, resealed it, put it back on the last service, which seems to be holding up pretty well. And I can't see any new oil. And it's a bit moist. There's a little bit of moisture, but I can't see any new oil. Same with the transmission. That's all pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with all of that. And so what I'll do, I'll put the splash guards back on and we'll take it down off the ramps. Yeah. That is it, my friends. That is the underside done, but majority of the work is done. Tell a lie, that is not it. That is it for the mechanical work. We have one more job to do before we can finally tick off this servicing. So you can see now that says 100%, 0 kilometers since reset, and that's your oil life, and it's good. So you won't get a service reminder on, until it's due again. And then one last job is we get rid of that one. Take note of your kilometers, 170. So, the geniuses amongst us that are doing 10,000k oil changes, and I've just changed my oil at 170. I'm not going to put the Jeep recommended service interval on there. I'm going to put my service interval. One last job. MOS2 friction reducer. Look, I don't know if this is actually necessary either. I like to do it. Makes me feel good about looking after my car. It's up to you. Depends how you feel about cars. Some people really like their cars, and other people, even though they like their cars, it's just a car and it's to get them to A to B. And that might be the case. This is just a car. It can't love me. And it does get me from A to B. But I very much like how it does that. And I would like it to keep doing it in the way that it does it. So therefore, I am going to look after it as best as I can. There we go. Alright, so that's it from me for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if there's anything that you didn't understand or you want me to explain more, please by all means comment below or reach out and send me a message, or any way you want to ask me, by all means. I'm more than happy to help. And if you enjoyed the video as well, please do like and comment and share and do all that sort of stuff. And there's really no intention here with this channel. It's just me trying to find a hobby, or well, not really trying to find a hobby, it's just me documenting the things that I'm interested in, because I'm interested in a lot of things. So anyway, that's enough about that. Please jump over, go and reach out and connect with me on TikTok, connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you prefer to do your social media in. By all means, go out and connect with me there, because I'd really like to hear from you. And please remember, I'm not a professional mechanic. This is not professional advice. This is backyard stuff. So if you do decide to go and do this yourself, that is, you are taking on that risk to do it yourself. It is not hard, but there are obviously risks involved with doing it. So please make sure you do your own research, you do your own due diligence before you undertake it. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.